Happiness always looks small while you hold it in your hands, but let it go, and you learn at once how big and precious it is. Keep reading books, but remember that a book's only a book, and you should learn to think for yourself. When everything is easy, one quickly gets stupid. When work is a pleasure, life is a joy. When work is a duty, life is slavery. Lies are the religion of slaves and masters. Truth is the God of the free man. What I'd like is to meet a man I could take off my hat to and say, "Thank you for having got born, and the longer you live the better." You must write for children the same way you write for adults, only better. The good qualities in our soul are most successfully and forcefully awakened by the power of art. Just as science is the intellect of the world, art is its soul. Remembrance of the past kills all present energy and deadens all hope for the future. Writers build castles in the air, the reader lives inside, and the publisher ins the rent. This fear is what is the ruin of us all, and some dominate us. They take advantage of our fear and frighten us still more. Mark this, as long as people are afraid, they will rot like the birches in the marsh. We must grow bold. It is time. The illness of a doctor is always worse than the illnesses of his patients. The patients only feel, but the doctor, as well as feeling, has a pretty good idea of the destructive effect of the disease on his constitution. This is a case in which knowledge brings death nearer. You will not drown the truth in seas of blood. When the life is monotonous, even grief is a welcome event. One word of praise from a woman is dearer to me than a whole ode from a man. The poor people are stupid from poverty, and the rich from greed. Politics is something similar to the lower physiological functions, with the unpleasant difference that political functions are unavoidably carried out in public. In the monotony of everyday existence, grief comes as a holiday, and a fire is an entertainment. A scratch embellishes an empty face. In music one can hear everything. Our existence has always and everywhere been tragic, but man has converted these numberless tragedies into works of art. I know of nothing more astonishing or more wonderful than this transformation. Anger is like ice, and also quick to melt. The pleasure of living carries with it the obligation to die. If it is true that only misfortune can awaken a man's soul, it is a bitter truth, one that is hard to hear and accept, and it is only natural that many people deny it and say, it is better for a man to live on in a trance than to wake up to torture. The indifferent pendulum of the clock kept chopping off the seconds of life, calmly and precisely. However low he may fall, a man can never deny himself the delight of feeling cleverer, more powerful, or even better fed than his companions. Much later I realized that Russian people, because of the poverty and squalor of their lives, love to amuse themselves with sorrow to play with it like children, and are seldom ashamed of being unhappy. The more a human creature has tasted of bitter things, the more it hungers after the sweet things of life, and we, wrapped round in rags of our virtues, and regarding others through the mist of our self-sufficiency, and persuaded of our universal impeccability, do not understand this. And this was the end of my first friendship with one of that innumerable company of people who are foreigners in their own country, but who are in reality its finest sons. But silence is terrible and painful only to those who have said all and have nothing more to speak of. But to those who never had anything to say to them, silence is simple and easy. I did not speak, continued Pavel, about that good and gracious God in whom you believe, but about the God with whom the priests threaten us as with a stick, about the God in whose name they want to force all of us to the evil will of the few. Like some wondrous birds out of fairy tales, books sang their songs to me, and spoke to me as though communing with one languishing in prison. They sang of the variety and richness of life, of man's audacity in his strivings towards goodness and beauty. All of us are pilgrims on this earth. I have even heard it said that the earth itself is a pilgrim in the heavens. I do not care to see men better off, but better. Yes, the rich, and that's their misfortune. You see, if you keep adding copper bit by bit to a child's food, you prevent the growth of its bones, and he'll be a dwarf. And if from his youth up you poison a man with gold, you deaden his soul once. All parents wash away their sins with their tears. You are not the only one. Once there was a crow, it flew from the field to the hill, from hedge to hedge, and lived its life. Then it died and rotted away. What's the sense in it? There just isn't any. We kill everybody, my dear, some with bullets, some with words, and everybody with our deeds. We drive people into their graves, and neither see it nor feel it.